War Eagle, Auburn family. We are here, the War Report, live and in effect for you. As you can see, your man Ike Jones is in the building. B Will is over here. Man Caesar is here. We are the War Report. If you don't know already, you should know. If you've been watching the show, this is your first time tuning in, and you know that you can follow us on Instagram and Twitter for all of the happenings that will be going down with the War Report. Make sure you stay locked in there. Um, the important thing for us right now is trying to get these followers, these likes and subscribes up on the YouTube so that we can be sure that when we're bringing you guys the news and information about Auburn football, about Auburn sports, that you know you can come in here and chat with us. Because we love when you guys are here on the live show. So hopefully we'll have more of you chatting in with us live as we continue to bring you this wonderful Auburn content. But fellas, how are we doing today? I have to do it's like mandatory to every show I put that up there. But how are we doing today, man? Y'all good?
Doing fresh off work, you know what I'm saying? Fresh off work, but it's all good.
Getting in the holiday spirit, man. I'm off work now, so I'm chilling. I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know what a holiday spirit is. Only holiday spirit is like some bourbon or something. But I don't know if it's like a Christmas bourbon or anything like that. But if there is a Christmas bourbon, then y'all can send me where I can pick that up and be in the holiday spirit. Anyway, so we're going to be talking a little bit about recruiting. Before we get into the recruiting things, one thing that did break today is Nick Coe, our outstanding, I guess he was technically a linebacker, but played like the outside linebacker, defensive end for us, decided he was going to declare for the NFL draft. So Nick Coe will not be coming back for the 2020 season. So that is three major players for our defensive front that will not be returning. Big Cat Bryant has not yet made a determination as to whether or not he is going to be coming back. But we know that Marlon Davidson and, of course, Derek Brown are seniors, and so they won't be returning. So we're going to be a little more depleted up front, but I still think that we have some guys that can come in here and handle business. Any thoughts on Brother Nick Coe not returning to the Plains?
Questionable. Just a questionable decision. But if you recall, we have been asking, may have been asking on the show, probably amongst ourselves when we were watching Auburn games late in the year. We were like, where's Nick Coe? Yeah. And so I don't know if this played a factor in his decision to leave. But yeah, it seems like that the way the 2019 season played out, he figured his time was cut short and that it was time to move on. So I wish him the best. That's about it.
Yeah, I was actually surprised by this a little bit. I thought with him having reduced minutes this year, a lot of that due to injury, that he would come back another year to put some more film out there for scouts. But maybe they, from his physical profile to what he showed last year, maybe he felt like he had enough out there to go ahead and secure a deal with an NFL team, get drafted, or at least be able to walk on. So we'll see how that plays out for him. I don't know, and I haven't done the research on it yet, whether or not he signed with an agent, though. So maybe he's just trying out the draft waters, and if it doesn't work out for him, he comes back. So we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, it was telling to me that everybody was really looking forward to Nick Coe coming back this year. So to see him kind of fall off mid-season, I mean, they said it was because of injury. I don't think all that's because of injury. I remember, 2018 season, everybody was questioning why Gatewood wasn't getting some kind of cleanup snaps, in our blowout games or whatever. And they said that he had a hand injury or something. Gatewood did not have a hand injury. There were enough people who saw him around campus and around town without any cast or wrap or anything on their hand. So it seems to be what they say when a player may be getting disciplined. Maybe he had a behavioral issue, again, where they want to discipline in-house and not bring a lot of attention to it. So, yeah, I'm with Mike. It's disciplinary things. They just dress it as injury and use that as an excuse. But when a dude doesn't hit the field that can help you win games, it's more than just injury. They'll push a dude through injury. I mean, Carrion got his shoulder ripped out and was out there for that championship game the next week. I mean, injury wasn't it for Nick Coe. I know that for a fact. I think the kind of season he had and him leaving early they're tied together. I think he knew he either burned his good graces with the coaches and he knew he wasn't gonna get no burn because of that, or he just saw the limelight and maybe he could step into it, get a couple of dollars if he could get high enough in the draft and do some good workouts. But I wish I knew exactly what it was. But I mean, either way, I'm happy for him because I think we got some good guys stepping in behind him.
Yeah, the vibe I get is that this was kind of mutual. So again, like I said, I wish him all the best, man. I hope it works out for him. I personally feel like he needs some more film.
Yeah.
To show scouts so that his stock can go up. But hey, sometimes you just got to bet on yourself and hope for the best. So
yeah, I definitely wish him the best. I feel like he was a beast out there when he was on the field. Last year, he definitely didn't show that. And again, that could be because of injury, could just be because of the playing time that he was not able to receive. But hopefully the future is bright for that young man and wish him all the best.
For sure.
Yep.
My man Mike G is in there. He had that first comment. Mike is not able to join us live. He had to have some sort of apparently he got into a fight in a bar or something like that, and some dude punched him in the mouth.
That's what he didn't want to tell us. He didn't want to tell us that. He didn't want to tell us that.
Yeah,
rocking AU hat, it got personal.
Yeah.
I feel you, Mike, but we'll go with the whole Dennis thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, he told somebody that their opinion about his opinion about the Pac-12 was trash, and the dude just punched him in the mouth or something. So
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all good. We're wishing him a speedy recovery, and hopefully he can get back here some more reports soon once he recovers from all of that. But yeah. Anyway, on to the topic at hand, which is recruiting class. Auburn right now ranked number 7 in recruiting for the 2020 coming class. Ended up having a couple of people flip away from us, and then we were able to flip a couple of recruits. All in all, we landed 22 recruits and ended up with a pretty impressive class, if you ask me. What are you all's thoughts on this recruiting class as it stands?
Definitely one of our more balanced classes. That's for
sure.
I feel like we handled all of our needs. We addressed all of our needs. I don't feel like there was an area of need that went lacking here.
Right.
So yeah, I'm impressed with this class. I think it was overall a pretty good one. And shout out to the coaching staff for a job well done.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, I agree. My bad. Go ahead, man.
No. I was going to transition. So yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I look at this class, and I think what's been happening over the last few years, as much as we give Gus Malzahn grief for his quarterback recruitment and who he plays, and in some cases play calling, or just not acknowledging the team's weakness of what we got. I mean, he addressed what the main weakness has been for a couple of years, and that's offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
And they tripled down on offensive line. I mean, they got the top 2 JUCOs, a couple really big boys, just really big guys. I'm sure they'll have to take some time, get on the conditioning program and all that. But I mean, the JUCOs can come in and contribute day one. They're getting in early. They're going to be here in the spring, so they get to go through spring training. I think they actually get to take part in bowl practices, right?
So anyone who has an early signee that actually has their letter of intent in right now, if they can work it out with their high school situation, is eligible to come participate in bowl practice. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, he addressed the offensive line. I mean, okay, so we a lot of skill position players. I'm not super concerned about skill position players because we have enough talent staying that I know Gus doesn't really play skill position players early. So I'm not worried about seeing them. I do think they'll be contributing, but immediately the impact of the offensive line is what stands out the most. I see us being the most efficient recruiting secondary players that we have ever been. It's like I look at these guys and I just glance through some of the tape. I don't get too in depth because honestly I wouldn't know what to look for. I'm not a scout, but it seems like the coaches we got, Wes McGriff, the guy we picked up from Memphis a couple years back,
Woodson,
yeah, those guys, Steele, Travis, and Gardner. It's like they each know what they need now, and they seem like they know how to target the players that are going to be good for our system. Like, I wouldn't have thought that Denson would be as good as he is right now 4 years ago. I would not have thought that McCreary comes in and he gets snaps early. Like Gus doesn't play skill position people early. Still, they put these people on the field. Defensive players, we get them on the field, man.
This is one thing I want to say. Now, I would say early on in Gus Malzahn's tenure, I would agree with that. But in the last 2 years, you've seen Seth Williams hit the field as a freshman. You see our starter and Bo Nix as a quarterback as a freshman. DJ Williams, true freshman's hitting the field this year. I think he's moving away from his previous pattern of redshirting a lot of talented guys. I think he realizes he needs to win, right? And so we're going to put talented people on the field. Now, that's not going to be pervasive throughout the entirety of his offense, but he is trying to find those special talents and allowing them to go out there and play. What he doesn't tend to do, Boobie Whitlow was a freshman last year as a running back, right? So like
he was ready.
But still, like he's starting. Like the reason he didn't play the year before was because he was hurt a lot that year. It wasn't because it seemed like he get hurt every game. But yeah, so he's starting to play more of those guys. He does not tend to start some of those people mostly because they can't block. And, for him, picking up blocks is the biggest thing for Gus in his schemes. If you're a running back, you need to be able to block well on the blitz. If you're a wide receiver, you need to be able to run block really well. He wants to be able to have those guys who know how to it's as much as people think it's a super vanilla offense, a lot of the between the tackle stuff is the same, but the window dressing is really different. So you have to know where your alignment is and what your play fake on the backside is and who you're supposed to be blocking and all. And that's a lot for somebody to be able to consume, especially considering he's pretty much audibling every play what it's going to be, right? Like it's a check with me thing where it's like, we're going to call a play, then we're going to go to the sideline. So you really have to know at any given time, whatever the initial alignment was, it may change once they call it in from the sideline. And that's a lot for a freshman to be able to pick up, especially if they're not down on campus early. So I think it's going to be big that a lot of these skill players that we have are early enrollees. They're going to be here for the entirety of fall camp. I think another thing that's really big for me, and he took a ton of time to highlight this in his press conference. I'd have to go back and look at previous press conferences to determine whether or not this was the case. He made special attention to point out how academically savvy a lot of the recruits were in his press conference. Like he was calling out GPAs. He was saying this person's a 3-point-something GPA. This guy has a 4-point-something GPA. One of the kids, I forget who he was talking about, was a possible recruit for Stanford, but actually chose Auburn. Like he was pointing out, these were not just guys who were on the field really good, but like in the classroom, they were really good. And so he feels like he's got a group of high character guys that are also intelligent, that are going to be able to excel and pick up things quickly. So I expect to see a pivot from that and more skilled players getting on the field earlier.
And to your point, that's kind of been a thing with Malzahn since he's been at Auburn. Very rarely do we have kids who come in who don't qualify. These kids usually qualify. We usually get most, if not all, of our class in. But yeah, to your point, he heavily emphasized their grades this time around, which, to be fair to Malzahn, he's been kind of different in his press conferences anyway. He's been giving a lot more than just the usual manufactured coach speak that he generally has been coming up with the previous 6 years. So
yeah,
he's been very expressive in his press conferences. But yeah, to highlight that's good to know. We know we can expect all these kids to be enrolled and ready to go by the time fall camp hits. And it's great. And I think that's been kind of the trend in college football anyway, to see a lot of kids enrolling early into school so that they can have a leg up on the competition to get on the field the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I definitely agree that's one of the reasons why the early signing period has become a lot more crucial for schools. And this has been just as pressure packed as the National Signing Day is in February. There's a couple of people that have been long-term commits that still did not come in during the early signing period. I thought that was kind of interesting. Before we get into that, I do want to highlight the comment that Mike had here about Tank Bigsby and whether or not we feel like he's going to be able to come in and take some snaps. I watched a little bit of Tank Bigsby's tape, and he's a big guy with a lot of speed, finishes runs really well. I think what's going to determine whether or not he comes in and takes those snaps is whether or not that translates to this level of him being able to hold on to the football and break tackles and all that, see the holes and all that. And if you can pick up pass blocking, you're going to see the field, basically.
Indeed.
And that's something that every freshman coming into Auburn needs to know. If you're a willing blocker, you will get more playing time in Gus Malzahn's system. Point blank, period.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And he
think
has
he's
the
got a
side.
chance.
Go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Jay. No, I was just gonna say I think he's got a chance to get on the field for sure. Booby, okay, you're not gonna put the ball on the ground too many more times. I think Gus knew he didn't. Booby was our best runner between the tackles. He could make something out of nothing. Just his skill set allows him to make something with a mediocre offensive line, and nobody else really had that ability on our roster. As far as last year when the season ended, Shivers couldn't run through the tackles too well because, like, we documented very well, and Ike has a couple times contact arm tackle. He can get tripped up, he can get brushed, and pushed down. Booby could take some contact. He was shifty enough to make some things happen with that offensive line, and nobody else was. And I think that's why Booby continued to get the ball. But if Gus has a better option than somebody who's going to put the ball on the ground, and if the offensive line is good enough to open up the holes where you don't have to be shifty to get positive yards, then Booby's going to be on the bench, man. It's going to be DJ Williams 1, Tank 2, or however long that dynamic lasts until he decides who's going to be the bell cow. And
Yeah, there's another kid who I always forget his name when to talk about him, that was hurt last year that apparently was a really good running back.
Mark
prospect.
Anthony.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
so,
that's
like,
gonna be real. Yeah.
the backfield is going to be crowded. I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out of the spring practices and all of that with that running back competition, because I think those kids are going to be fighting for snaps because it's going to be a talented backfield. Booby, of course, has to be the front runner right now just because he's been the guy that's been the closest to the 1,000-yard back for the last 2 seasons. But now, of course, we have a couple of guys that were there. Well, really only Cam Martin saw the field. But
Right.
what's your other man's name?
Malik Miller.
Yeah, Malik Miller.
Mhm.
Is the only other person that ever got snaps. He rarely got any touches, but he was usually in as that third down blocking back, right? Because he knew how to pick up blocks. He knew how to pick up the blitz coverages. So again, if those guys can come in and learn how to block, they're going to see the field more often, and they're not going to come off of the field. Problems with Booby: fumbling, number one. Number two, apparently his conditioning's not that great.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I just have an unreal expectation for conditioning of running backs in this offense post seeing Trey Mason do this. Trey Mason and Cameron Artis-Payne and Kerryon Johnson spoiled me on conditioned running backs.
Yeah.
Those guys never came off the field.
Right.
Like, they could literally get the ball 3 plays in a row, and Kerryon probably was the only one that looked gassed after doing that.
A couple times.
Yeah, but like I don't know what Trey Mason and Cameron Artis-Payne was on, bro, but like, they just didn't get tired, man. Like,
I saw Mason get gas once, and I was like, finally, dude. Especially, you got to remember that offense. We were running the ball like 70% of the time.
Yeah, and it was like our pace was a lot quicker. So it wasn't like, we've slowed down our pace significantly since the Trey Mason days, right?
Right.
I like, Booby's not built like those guys, right? He gets tired after 2 carries. But those other guys, man, they would be in there 3-4 plays in a row. Now, the other thing that I will say, we ran the quarterback a lot more with those guys too.
Right.
That's right.
So that's a slight
but
difference.
you're still getting, those are still a lot of snaps, regardless. Still a lot of snaps. Mike basically took the guy I wanted to highlight, and that was Tank. I mean, it's easy to chase the biggest star. It's easy to chase the premier recruit of your class. But I feel like with all of the guys that we have at running back coming back next year, this position is still up for grabs.
Yeah.
And to get a guy like him coming in who appears to be, at least on film, and every down kind of back, not a package back, because Gus likes to stick a guy in certain roles for certain type of packages. This guy seems like he can come in and play multiple downs. If he gets in and shows improve, and again, we mentioned Anthony Richards. I think Richards is his last name, the running back.
Yeah,
Anthony.
So. Mark Anthony Richards.
Yeah.
So we got some competition, and if Booby wants to remain the starter, he can continue to perform the way he has, and he has to stay healthy, because if not, it's next man up. You got DJ Williams right behind them. You got a few other guys just willing and waiting to prove themselves. And I feel like this kid who's a 5-star, I don't think he's looking in to come in the red shirt. I think he's looking to come in and compete and play. And
he's been committed for a while too.
Right. So I'm waiting for him to come in and actually compete for a position or at least some type of playing time.
Yeah. Same here.
Yeah. Another thing that Mike points out that I think is a good call out is the fact that I think Gus intentionally went after taller receivers. I think that they're tired of having those small, quick. They want to get possession receivers, right? And so, to me, that's a signal that they're going to be throwing the ball over the middle a lot more. They're going to be challenging teams to have to stop them in the short passing game, and they want guys that can go in there and compete for the ball, especially when we get into, which has traditionally been an issue for the Gus Malzahn system, the red zone. Be able to get those 50-50 balls and really go out there and compete for the ball.
Well, I think Williams opened Gus's eye to that. Gus began to see the value of how he was getting those 50-50 balls that were in the past we were not getting those. We basically had to outrun the defense on a go route to basically get a big play catch. And what I do want to highlight, I'm glad that Mike mentioned that. I want to highlight the fact that this is one of our first times getting a pretty big time signing at tight end. And I wonder if that is a Chad Morris influence, since he likes to utilize the tight end in his offenses. Jeremiah Peags, I think, from Ogden,
Mississippi. That was actually the guy I wanted to highlight when we started talking about players.
Yeah, I'll let you take it away, right?
To me, he's the most interesting prospect. So I watched his tape. He's a big kid. Let me see the stats on this kid.
6'3", 270. He's
6'3", 285.
I thought another one had him at 285. Like that's offensive line territory right there.
There are people who are saying that he could be, after strength and conditioning, close to 300 pounds at a tight end. And I'm like, I watched his tape. And people are really high on him. Like he played all over the field in high school. Like literally was taking wildcat snaps in high school. He was split out as a receiver. But I'm also watching him play against people that are not close to his size, right? And so he looks intimidating and big against these undersized people. Is that going to translate when we get over here into the SEC? Now he's still a big kid. Like I don't care what position he plays. He's a big kid. But can he run well enough to be, are his hands good enough to either be like that guy is going to go turn around at 5 yards, box somebody out and get a catch and take that contact? Or is he a guy who's going to pose a threat like what's the guy at Florida, Pitts, who's the tight end there, who's like a matchup nightmare? It's going to be that kind of guy who's kind of the prototypical NFL tight end who can run all the routes and can do all the blocking for you. If he's that guy, like the H-back hybrid, but he's in a tight end's body, that's scary good. Like, I don't even like, how do you defend an offense that has speed on the outside and size on the inside? Like,
right.
I don't know.
I'm excited because we haven't seen that in a while in terms of recruiting. So I'm excited to see, couple that with Chad Morris and what he likes to do. I think we're going to see some different things in this offense. I don't expect Peags to sit either because we don't have a skill set like that. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, Keon says that he wants us to recruit better O-line along with developing guys better. That's kind of a thing that we've been harping on. Better O-line class that we've had with this, but our class is in it. This is definitely a better O-line class than we've had in a while. That's something that B was saying at the top of the show. That I feel like they made a concerted effort to go out there and shore up for the short term. Like they wanted guys who they could come in and play right away. And I think that's why he went out and he got guys that he felt like were smart. Like he wanted them to be intelligent, to be able to pick the stuff up, but also good football players. I think we have the O-line coaching staff that can coach these guys up. Like he didn't have to go after the 5-star guys that were just the all-star athletes. He just wanted to get guys who were intelligent that we can coach up to play well and can physically go out there and compete. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this O-line progresses and how quickly we can do that.
I like the size of our O-line too. That has been a kind of a concern of mine, is that in recent years our O-line has been kind of smaller versus the O-line that Malzahn had when he first got to Auburn.
Yeah.
It's a correlation of why we was able to move people off the line of scrimmage,
Mhm.
the beginning of Malzahn's tenure to now.
Yeah.
I think that plays into the size of the linemen. So it was good to see larger size linemen in this class versus the 275s and the 280 guys, who that was their maximum weight. Like, that's not a good sign if we want to do what Malzahn wants to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think he wants to get back to that bread and butter. I mean, I don't think we've kind of chanced into it 4 years and then we have a good line, 4 years and then we have a good line. It's either 3 or 4 years and then we get a line that is experienced enough. Maybe they're not all-star talent in athleticism, but they're experienced enough combined with the program over several years to get the bodies necessary to execute the run game very well. And that's always been when we click the best. So yeah, it was 2010 and that line was just seasoned. Like, we just had a bunch of guys who had been here through the Tubbs years, and there was like 4 seniors on that line, and it worked. 3 years later, we're in the same situation. 4 years later, we're in the same situation. But we've only been able to do it every 3 or 4 years. So you would almost set your watch. Like, well, were we good in 2017? All right, we're not going to be good again until 2020 at the earliest. And we're almost looking at that, honestly. But it takes us a while to turn around that O-line talent. We've whiffed a lot. I mean, we've had a 5-star top tier O-line recruit that's now at Florida A&M. Oh wait, did he walk off now?
To be fair,
Calvin Ashley?
Yeah,
he left. To be fair, I was not a big Herb Hand fan. So some of our futility at offensive line was due to that hire.
Yeah.
He brought in guys, but you did very little development. What concerned me most about the Herb Hand years was that we did a lot of cross training, too much for comfort for me. I didn't like the fact that we were having guys who had to play center and guard and tackle, and just at a moment's notice. That tells me you don't have guys behind you that you trust and that you're developing to play in those positions. And as time went on, that showed to be, or proved to be, the case.
Yeah.
So with Herb Hand out of there, and we got Grimes back. Grimes is not an elite recruiter at O-line, but he has cut his teeth on being able to coach up and develop guys on the line.
And that's what we really need. Yeah, that's to me, I think that's the bigger thing. Is he might not be the best O-line recruiter, but I think that we don't have to get great O-line talent if you have a great O-line coach. Right. So I think winning begets recruiting to some degree. Like, if you come in and you see guys be successful and go to the league under the tutelage of your coach, then all you need is the guys who can go out there and say, hey, look, we're winning. And this guy's going to the league. I'm putting guys in the league and showing them how to, do all these things. Come play for us. And we just need to do that more. I think that's a big thing. These comments that I've been popping up here on the screen from Mike and Keon says about Sal Cannella and how we underutilized him. I definitely agree with that. But again, I have to highlight, for Gus Malzahn, seeing the field consistently is about being able to block well. And I don't think Sal Cannella was the best blocker. He's okay. Maybe that's because they weren't playing him enough. I just don't think that they trusted him to be able to be physical at the point of attack and block well. And that's why it was so here. What Gus wants to be able to do, and really what all spread offenses want to be able to do, is to be multi in the same position packages, meaning I don't have to substitute, but I can do a lot of things out of this package. If we're going 21 personnel, then I want to stay 21 personnel, but I want to line them up in different places. So instead of having, the 2 tight ends line up and be tight ends, I'm going to move one of them back to be an H-back, but I can run same people on the field, different things. But if I can only put you in the game in obvious passing situation or as a passing decoy, then you tip the hand of what I want to be able to do. And he needs that ability to be multi with the same package on the field. I don't know that Sal Cannella provided that for him on a consistent basis. Had good hands, big guy, definitely not used well. I'm not saying that he couldn't have been used better. I'm just saying I think that contributes to him not seeing the field as often.
But yeah, I hear you, Ike. But Auburn kind of lost his way in terms of his identity offensively, and we started throwing the ball a lot more as the year went on. And we still didn't see Sal until we got into the red zone.
Yeah.
In a lot of
again, that's what I say. I'm not disagreeing that he was underutilized. Should have been on the field a lot more because we I mean, Bo Nix threw the ball like 30 something times per game. If you're throwing it 30 something times on 70 something possessions, then yes, you need to have a big pass catching talent out there on the field. Agreeing 100% with that. I just don't. So number two to that is that this highlights to me again that Gus is not a great play scheme designer for just standard passing attack. He's good at run action passing. So his system does not cater to being able to do that well.
So I saw an article, guys. I was reading this week, and it was talking about Chad Morris. He spent this past week just observing. They started bowl preparation, and Chad Morris.
I'm going to disagree with what Mike just said right here in just a second, but go ahead.
Okay. And Chad Morris was observing, doing recruiting, but he was interviewed, and one of the things he said, which stood out to me, it was flashing lights. He said that I think I may have heard either Bo Nix or Williams say it. He said that we're moving forward, we're going to spread the ball out and get the ball out to several people as opposed to one or two people.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was whoa when I saw that, because that's typically what this offense has been. If it's not Williams, it's our speed guy. I just had a brain fart.
Schwartz.
If it's not those two, if those two go down and get hurt, we have nowhere to go with the ball.
Yeah.
Right. Moving forward, it looks like what Chad Morris wants to do is spread the ball around to multiple people, make the defense have to defend everybody. And that
which is what we should have been doing all along. We've got too much talent to not be doing that.
Absolutely. And so when you do that, your Sal Canellas, your Peegs in this regard, guys who normally wouldn't get the ball are starting to get the ball, as opposed to targeting the same one or two guys that we always do throughout the game. Yeah. And if that holds true, you begin to see less and less of our receiving core become underutilized. It's almost a similar thing that happened with Bama a few years ago. They went through the same problem until they began to spread it out, and then they became deadly. So that's what I want to see at Auburn. I want us to see us pass the ball because we got talent. We always been recruiting talented guys. They've just been either underutilized or got frustrated and transferred elsewhere.
Yeah. So this is the disagreement I want to make with this statement from Mike, right? He said that a system that requires good blocking wide receiver and running back should produce good blocking running backs and wide receivers. In theory, great. Yes, of course. Blocking is about technique, but a lot of that is like defense in basketball.
Yep.
You can teach someone defensive technique all day. You can teach someone how to block out and rebound. The guys that are good at those things just have a passion for wanting to go out there and mix it up and be physical. So part of that is recruiting more so than I would say coaching. It's like evaluating the talent that actually has the mentality to go and do those things, because it's not just about size. It's not just about physics. It's not just about like strength. It's really a mentality that goes out and says, the guy that's in front of me, I'm going to physically dominate him. And that's everybody who does that isn't necessarily the best coached person. That's a mental thing. And so I don't know that coaching changes the mentality of a guy.
Right. Recruiting helps, though. To your point, Ike, and I think that's one of our complaints with this coaching staff, at least on the offensive side, is that their evaluation of talent in terms of what they're looking for and want to do seems to be off at times.
Correct. And that's where I have the bone to pick, is the talent evaluation portion.
Right. So yes, in theory, yes, if you're recruiting the guys to do what you want a guy who says, you know what, I like to frustrate the defender. I want to get in their head and get I want to do that. You don't have to throw me the ball. I want to block. If you can find kids like that, that's what
makes the guys on our defense so good, right? Yeah, like you can scheme really well all you want to, but they just have that nasty about them. Like Derek Brown was just a dude who was like I literally don't care who you put in front of me to block me. They're physically incapable of doing that. Talent be damned. I'm better than the guy on the other side of the field, and I'm going to prove it to him snap after snap after snap. You can have someone who's the exact same size as Derek Brown, coached by the same coaches as Derek Brown, that doesn't produce Derek Brown results because mentally he's just different. There's a different level that he ascends to when he hits the football field that these other guys can't touch, even if they're in the weight room side by side with him, taking the same reps as him side by side. He's a different beast of a guy. So you have to go and find those beasts. And then you put those guys on the field who either it's a selflessness that says, I don't need to make every tackle. I'm just going to do my job every single play. And if it's this A gap and I'm supposed to dominate the A gap, nobody's hitting this A gap today. I don't care if I don't ever get a tackle and they run through the C gap all day. I bet you they don't come to the A gap though.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think we should keep disagreeing with all of Mike's points since he can't talk to himself. So Mike, what you got, man? What else tell us?
Well, he also says you need a quarterback that can see the whole field. I actually agree with you when Caesar was talking about.
Mike. I disagree. Disagree. You don't need to see the whole field. Stare down one receiver. You can't say nothing. So yeah, let's just piss him off.
But that, you know what? That's one thing about, like you were talking about, I got just recruiting guys to a mentality, who have a mentality. That was something, I don't know if, I give credit to Tubbs for always turning out 2-3 stars. I walk on. Will Herring was a walk on, and then he had a very plentiful NFL career. Like, how do you go from walk on to, on the defensive side where you at least have to have some physicality? It's well, to Mike's point, yeah, it's more than practice. I don't know how much of it you can make. I'm with you, Ike. Some of it can be habitual. If you come into a program,
there's a portion of that that's infectious that happens when you have enough leaders in there that it creates.
You create a culture. You create a culture for that.
But that's not all coaching right there. Like it definitely starts with having good leadership up front. I just think our defense had better leaders that created a culture of they're not going to score on us. Like they're like that's coaching puts you in the right position. And you guys know I'm a big 49ers fan. We have close to the same guys on that defense that we had last year, but the defense plays so much better this year. Same coaches, right? Like, but they're playing better this year just because they had one or two pieces that were in there that made it easier for the rest of the team to do what they're supposed to do. So the coaching didn't get better since between last year and this year. Had the same coaches with the same kind of energy. It's a different energy in that room when you have different Joes. Like you have all the X and O's right, but you don't have the right Joes. Doesn't matter. And you gotta have the right guys.
Yeah, we see it. We see it all the time when, especially in basketball. Not to jump to complete different sports, but when a guy goes to the bench, the team plays differently. Right. They just play differently, but they feed off of the leaders and those guys who basically are setting a culture for how that team is supposed to play. And I'm looking forward to see the offensive side catch up to the defense. As it pertains to that. So when you got guys, you know, Cody was like that. Cody Burns was like that. Cody was like, I'll do whatever the coaches need me to do. I'm not the best receiver. I was a quarterback when I came to Auburn, but to see the field, I would do whatever you asked me to do. That's why he was so good at blocking.
Yeah, so, that's what's the guy's name? Rudy. He was a safety for us, but came in as a running back.
I know you're talking about. I just remember Rudy, but I know you're talking about.
But he's one of those guys who he came in as a running back, wanted to be a running back, couldn't get on the field as a running back. He ended up leading the team in tackles, right? Because his mentality was, I'm going to go out here and compete every single play. I'm going to be
Rudy Ford.
There we go.
So Rudy Ford was just one of those guys that had that mentality of like, when I get out here on the field, I'm going to physically dominate the people on the other side of the ball. It doesn't really matter where you line me up. Mike said we need him because he remembered Rudy Ford.
Well, need you, man. You good.
You can be the stat guy feeding us the stuff off. No, I'm just playing. No, I'm playing, man. You know, you my boy. But yeah, so like I said, I'm not going to put all of that on coaching. I think some of that is just there are people who just they have a different mentality when it comes to stuff like blocking. Like I put it on coaching for like not knowing a scheme or not designing good plays or people being ill prepared. You could be in the right position and still get dominated on the block, right? Like I can know I'm supposed to block the guy that's coming through the C gap right here on the blitz, and you get run over by that. Not because you're not physically better than that guy. Coaching ain't have nothing like coaching didn't cause your boy Xavier, whatever his name is from Alabama's helmet to fly off when Sean Shivers ran into him. That was two wills meeting at the 5-yard line, and one of them decided, I'm not going to get stopped on this play, right? Like, that's not coaching, that's will, right? And some people have that mentality when it comes to little things like blocking. They say Shedrick Jackson is a willing and relentless blocker as a wide receiver. Like, he does not mind being physical. That's why he sees the field more often. And he's not the best receiver that's out there from a talent standpoint, but he's willing to block. So he gets in the game more often.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's coached by the same wide receiver coaches that everybody else is.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I don't know that that's necessarily talent when it comes to that particular facet of the game, which is physicality in the blocking game. Some people just love it. They absolutely love it, and they're going to excel at it because that's what they want to go out there and do. And you throw those guys, you throw the Chandler Cox of the world, right? The guy who loves to block every now and then because he has the talent to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Every now and then you throw him a bone, he gets a catch, and he's going to pick up a critical first down for you because that's the kind of guys that Gus loves in his system.
The Jay Procious.
Right.
Yeah, you need guys who's not, and that's why I used to lament that we didn't get like the 5-star wide receivers. Like, you see how Stag Bammy is a wide receiver, and you go, man, when are we gonna get those speed plus agility plus change of direction plus yards after the catch, strength and high point guys that can do everything? Like Seth Williams, that guy, but he doesn't have speed. Schwartz is that guy, but he doesn't have the quick change of direction. He's straight line, he's got good hands, but he's not a sharp, shifty route runner. Why don't we get those guys? And there's something to that. I mean, I wish we get those guys. Pickens was the first guy we were in line to get that had that. I mean, we were in the game for Justin Ross the year before that. I mean, both of them got poached, but we seem to still we're starting to get wide receiver. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. We're starting to get these.
And I was like, oh.
And I like that we're getting these guys now, but I also like that these guys are going to come in behind what should be an accomplished core now. I mean, you got Shedrick Jackson, he can block. Schwartz is going to be back healthy. Williams, we know he's out possession. We should be throwing more fades in the end zone when we get into the red zone instead of wildcatting every time. And now we will have the tools to do that. So
don't say wildcat too loudly. Keontae hates that word.
My bad. But
how about Booby Cat? Will Booby Cat suffice? No,
we could. I'm excited to see that we're getting more talented guys, but I also hope we keep this edge of that we seem to have had with the wide receivers. Like, I'm not that do-all 5-star gotta have it Julio Jones wide receiver, but I'm gonna be really good at something. Like, I see the effort from my wide receivers, even when I don't see the talent, and that's why, to y'all's point, Sal Cannella didn't get on the field a lot. He does have some measurables, but at the same time, I don't see that dog in Sal Cannella that I've seen in other people who I would prefer. It's like, I want to see that dog come out these boys, man. It's been all over the defense for a couple of years now. I feel like it's starting to pick up on the offense with Shivers.
Yes, Mike Chandler Cox. Yes.
But yeah, I'm excited.
Not Chandler Cox, Mike.
I'm excited about these wide receivers, man. We, like y'all already said it. If we can keep the mentality that we've got on defense going, and you know what? As much as it didn't amount to just having a great defense this year, I think Derrick Brown and Marlon Davidson coming back probably did more for us. It probably bought us more wins than just the tangibly having them on the field. I think that mindset for the class that came in behind them. So these defensive linemen that have been in here for a little while, they might not have gotten a lot of snaps, but they got to learn behind not only dominant players, but leaders. And having that year of that defense and setting that standard and wanting to be considered the best defense and be a better defensive team than Bama, and then to win that game and have these recruitment results, I think it's all connected, and I'm definitely glad to see the pickup. I just hope it results in some wins. It's got to result in some wins.
Yeah.
We mentioned offensive. The offensive side of the ball in terms of what we want to see more in the red zone, right? Yeah. I hear you, Tez. No Wildcat. I'm with you on that. With Chad Morris as our OC, do you think we'll probably begin to see more pick plays on the goal line in the red zone?
Oh yeah, because he was the Clemson OC when they was picking, right?
Yeah.
He did that a lot. He loved that. So
Mhm.
are we going to see different types of concepts where we use different receivers to
Well,
do
I mean,
different kinds of
that's
things?
my sincere hope is that the wide receiver concepts, like you just don't see the good route combinations on the back end that would produce, third and short and
Mm-hmm.
not this predictable situation. Um, and so I'm hoping to see more of that, or even on 2nd and 7, right? Like we're in 2nd and 7 right now. Can we get 7 yards on this play without being super predictable? Where
Right.
it's still going to be off of an RPO run fade, right? Everything is going to be ball in the belly at the back, but then you've got some sort of route combination on the back end of this play that's either an automatic based upon whatever the coverage is on the outside, or it's actually a design situation where the fake is really only for occupying linebackers, and we're intending to throw the ball behind this on the back end.
Yeah.
I didn't see now closer to the end of the year. Again, a lot of those slant routes that were in there, those were great things that I started to see get incorporated into our offense. Wish we had been able to do that earlier in the season, to take a little pressure off of the young quarterback and give him some easy throws. Hopefully he gets a little bit more sound mechanically, and Chad Morris can help him with that, to make him be able to be more consistent with being able to hit those throws. If we can do that with better mechanics out of the quarterback and better route combinations on the back end where we're not being predictable for the defensive backs, that's dangerous, man.
Yeah,
I agree.
Mike says, will Gus give up play calling again, or is Gus going to only call plays with Chad Morris's scheme? I see some ego issues.
I think Malzahn should call 25% of the plays on 4th down.
He decides whether we're going to punt, and if we go for it on 4th, he gets to make the decision for what the play call is going to be.
Indeed, 25% of our plays he should be calling.
Okay.
You know what? That's interesting because I know that their relationship.
Hopefully, just don't get to 4th down.
They don't. So
there you go.
Chad Morris wasn't Gus like a mentor of his or something? Like he was in Arkansas too. So I wonder if they, well, on one hand, Chad Morris won a national championship as an OC, just like Gus did. So he's just as accomplished a play caller, I would say, because that's still Gus's biggest accomplishment was being a national championship winner as an offensive coordinator. So they seem to be neck and neck on that, but it's still Gus's show. He's still the chief. He's still the boss. So I wonder, like Mike said, how much ego is there? I mean, for them to even agree to work together, then Chad Morris had to be okay with whatever Gus Malzahn said his role was going to be. I mean,
so from what I understand it in their relationship, I have to go back and verify this. This is me hearsay. Chad Morris is one of the few guys that Gus Malzahn said that he would give the ability to overrule him, meaning like, I think this is a better situation, so we're going to go with this as opposed to this is what I want to do. Now, how that will actually play out on game day, Chad Morris has also said that he's looking forward to getting back to coaching offense again because he felt like, it was a different responsibility being the head coach, and he's looking to get back into what he enjoyed about football, which is coaching up offenses. So it might be a marriage right here that is, Gus loves power and Chad Morris loves calling plays or being an OC. For whatever reason, Gus fell out of love with that and he wants to be the big guy. So we'll see how that goes, but I don't know.
And I think too, and we talked about this about a week ago, Ike, when we discussed the hiring of Chad Morris and the coaching carousel. One of the things that it seems like it will be a problem, but it's actually, I think, a good thing is their friendship. Mm-hmm. And I think because of the friendship, I think Chad will have a way to get through to Gus in ways that Rhett Lashley, Chip Lindsey, and previous coordinators could not.
Yeah.
And I think because of how accomplished Chad Morris is, that I think he has Gus's ear because Gus knows this is a seasoned coordinator who knows what he's talking about.
You know what's going to tell me a lot about how much he respects Chad Morris?
What's that?
The season?
The contract details. I want to see how much he decided to let this man get paid as his coordinator.
I think it's 800,000 to 900,000, somewhere in the neighborhood. I mean, I don't.
You don't think it's a milli?
He was getting over $1 million when he was a Clemson OC.
Yeah, but we ain't Clemson.
We're not Clemson. I'm just saying.
No, I
Well,
But-
Clemson
but-
pays
So-
too well because they want to maintain
When
their
Gus was the OC, he was getting paid $1 million to coach.
here.
we
Yes.
paid Muschamp.
That must have
We
been
paid
after he
Muschamp
won
$1 million.
okay, I understand why you pay Muschamp that, because Muschamp is an outstanding defensive coordinator. He's earned that right. So if Chad Morris won that national championship as Clemson's OC, Clemson hadn't exactly slowed down. This is me. This is not. I'm not saying this is what Gus thinks. This is me. If you're a Gus disciple,
This
you
is
know what I'm
coaching. I
saying?
want to come back to that point. That's coaching.
Oh, okay. If you're a Gus disciple and y'all at least have an understanding of how the other wants to run offense, if you were at Clemson, you had everything was firing on all cylinders. Deshaun Watson was there. You had a lot of talent there, man. How much of your success there, and just like the subsequent success since you left, how much of that was really you if they kept it going without you? You know what I'm saying? Like right now, if we wanted to get rid of,
I think a lot of
Steele,
that was him. Deshaun Watson.
lot of that was him.
I'm
He
again, I'm
recruited-
not saying that it's not. I'm not saying that it's not. I'm just saying, are you a better OC than Gus was? Was Clemson's offense better than Gus? I mean, Cam was we were kind of one man machine at the time.
Yes.
No,
I'm going to
yeah,
say
the
yes on
offense is
both of
better.
those.
But we
The
had,
offense is better.
but Clemson had much better offense. Talent everywhere on the offensive side
Mhm.
than we had when he was here. I'm 50-50 on how much was talent and how much was him. Not that it couldn't be, because you
my-
still go ahead.
I'm saying my point in all that is that Gus wastes talent routinely.
There you go.
Chad Morris
There you
knows
go.
how to employ talent
And-
to put up points.
And it goes back to the
I
point
agree.
we made earlier, Brian. That if it goes back to the point we made earlier, when I'm only targeting one or two people, and year after year, Bama and LSU and Georgia knows what I'm going to do, and they scheme to stop those two people as opposed to the four receivers that I have lined up on the field,
Right.
I become a lot easier to defend as opposed to Clemson, who's knocking everybody's head off.
Right.
Because they're making defenders defend the hole. That's why Bama gets into a championship game with Clemson and they start looking silly, because they're having for once defend everybody as opposed to one or two receivers.
Right.
Yeah, and this is why I will come back to the coaching point of Chad Morris being essential to our offense. This is where coaching comes into play. Because we were not a prolific passing offense prior to the Iron Bowl, when we get into situations where guys need to be lined up in the right place, or the play design for a passing concept is not great, this is where offensive coordinating, coaching, scheming comes into play. Chad Morris knows how to scheme these plays properly based upon where we are on the field. This is the difference between a Gus Malzahn coached offense and a Chad Morris coached offense, in my opinion, is that when we get into what those schemes need to look like in those tight situations, we have routinely been poor in the red zone with scoring points. That's
Right.
why Gus Malzahn likes to hit home runs, because once he gets inside the 20 and it gets more compact, his scheme doesn't work the same way, because a lot of that is predicated on space. You compact the space. Can those guys still operate within a box? Can you put them in a phone booth and still be able to produce something? Typically, Gus Malzahn offense is the answer to that is no.
Because his offense is chunk plays.
Right, exactly.
His offense is predicated on getting chunk plays and doing that. And when we get into those confined spaces, he
needs to be able to run the ball really, really well.
Really well. Exactly. Because then it
Right.
doesn't matter. His chunks, we just want to nickel and dime you and then hit you with the big chunk play. But every now and then our run game is good enough to where our nickel and diamond is 5 to 6 yards a run. It's like, oh, well, let's just do this.
run it on in. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so,
To Ted's point, Ted's had a point that he brought up that we did try some of that in the Iron Bowl.
right. And that's what I was just
some of
had on the
those
screen.
concepts. Yeah. And so, I agree. We did that, but I'm looking at, like, to your point, Ike, I'm looking at Chad to improve on that.
Yeah, I think we're going to be in a good position. I think we've got the talent to be able to do it. I like what we did in our recruiting efforts to put more talent out there and be accessible to replenish. I think we're finally getting to a place where we're in reload mode, right? Right. We're not just, rebuilding every time we ramp up to a good team. Like, I would argue that from a talent perspective, we were better this year than we were last year. I'd argue that, like, even though we lost Jarrett Stidham and he was a more consistent quarterback, I think just across the board, we have more talent. We just didn't have the right unfortunately, coaches to put that talent in the right position to be successful. Offensive line
Agreed.
should have been better. We were just like we had pretty much the same guys. So I don't know why we got so much worse on the offensive line. Defensively, that team was more talented because they were more experienced. And so we will see now. This is where you get into this is where we're going to separate the good coaches from the great coaches. Sorry to use that word, B. Will. Great coaches, because they're going to build a program that consistently can win year in and year out and compete against the big boys year in and year out. This is going to be that turn year, right? Like this is the year that we're going to lose a lot of the talent that helped us get to an elite defense. Can we continue to be an elite defense once we lose those guys?
Or at least a very good defense. You know what I'm saying? Like a slight step back. You'd understand.
I'm not saying all-time great, but I'm saying
do we balance it with an improved offense?
Right.
You know what I mean? So maybe the pressure is not on the defense to have to carry the whole team if the offense begins to raise its level and start playing up to its potential.
Yeah.
You know, that gives the defense some time to catch up.
Yeah. So I think this is that year that we're going to start to see whether or not that's going to be the case for this Auburn program, as to whether or not we are actually turning the corner and putting ourselves in a different conversation, as being able to be one of the dominant players. LSU seems to have turned that corner, but we'll see for them as well whether or not that's a good program or they just had a flash year. There was a point in time I saw a headline for an article, and we're about to shut down here in a minute. There was a headline for an article that was, I think it was in 2010 or 2011, that said Alabama has cemented itself as the new kings of the SEC over Florida, right? And we forget how dominant Florida was for years in the SEC, in those Steve Spurrier years down there with that crew. And, we really just forget that team was really good and Bama, these were the years when Bama was sucking, like Bama was garbage for a long time. Bama fans, for some reason, forget that they haven't always been great because whatever. But we see they cemented themselves over time as the dominant player in the league. Is it now time for another changing of the guard in the SECs, where another school can step up and start to assert their dominance on a year in and year out basis and really make it to where there's a conversation now to be had as to who is the best team in the league? And we need to be able to be primed to fill that void, because I feel like we're getting to that place where there's going to be a change of guard soon.
I agree. I think it's balancing out, though. I think Alabama won't be the bell cow for the conference anymore. Now, whether that's Florida's got a really good shot because I think Dan Muller's a really good coach. They always had the ability to get some good talent, and now that a quality coach is there, that's going to get better for them. The improvement from year 1 to year 2 for them should be, if I was a recruit in the state of Florida, especially with Miami being terrible, Florida State's going to get better, I think, with Mike Norvell. But I think Florida is on the rise. Georgia may not be the powerhouse I thought they were about to be. They might have had a few really good years, consistency at quarterback, but I mean, everything's starting to look a little shaky at Georgia, man. All that talent, that was barely enough for them to get through the East, and now a lot of that talent's leaving. Fromm's going to be leaving. I suspect. I don't know if he's going to stick around. He
needs to stick around. I'm going to be honest. He needs to stick around.
But I think that offensive line is going to be worse next year because they lost their coach. That was, by all reports, the glue for that team. He was just a big.
They got a pretty good one to replace him, though. Matt Luke's not going to be a shabby.
He's not a scrub. He's not a scrub. And Ole Miss had good O-lines when he was there.
Okay, well, hey, I didn't know how good a O-line coach he was in the first place, Matt Luke.
He's pretty good.
It seems like we're winning a couple of recruiting battles against Georgia now. And I mean, for the last few years, that wasn't the case, man. Like we got one was Derek Brown. We poached Derek Brown. That was a real big get. But we were still losing pretty consistently to Georgia on head-to-head and recruiting. But now, I mean, we basically scraped food right off of their plate. This early signing period. They might not have the steam we thought they had. I never thought Kirby was a great coach. I knew he was a great defensive coordinator. I didn't know if he was a great coach or not. I thought he might be. You get to the ship your second year, and you got to be in the discussion as far as doing things the right way. But that's not even looking like slam dunk no more. Bama's starting to feel the effects of having to go offensive heavy because, offense is kind of trumping defense these days. And the last few people who have won it have been able to put up points and not just shut down traditional defenses and win a game by 21-0. You know, that's not the league. And since we've been trending away from that, Alabama has been less effective in championship games. So
don't be. I hear you. Don't be prisoner of the moment with Georgia. I think as good as their O-line coach was, I felt like he was a trash coordinator. Just my personal opinion.
Well, he wasn't their coordinator though.
He was calling plays for him, I thought.
The O-line. No, who's the offensive coordinator after?
Who's the coordinator?
I forgot his name. Pittman wasn't their coordinator. Pittman, he had been their O-line coach for years, or at least since Kirby got there. He may have been this before Kirby got there. I'm not sure.
Because I know the OC coach. They did have a coordinator, and he left. And I think
he went to Tennessee.
He went to Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
So who took over after him?
Some guy, but it wasn't the O-line coach. It was a new coach that they brought in. They wanted to stay pro style, so they brought in somebody else to do that. I have to look up his name.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little too early to determine whether or not Georgia is still going to be. I think Georgia, as far as easily with talent, they're right up there. LSU is going to be the other team that's getting there from a talent perspective. But, you know, I think we're knocking on the door of that. And we have been kind of for a while. Now the question is, do we have the coaching talent that can take these guys that aren't the 4 and 5 star guys, that are 3-star guys, and coach them up to a place where they're playing at a 5-star level on the field? And that's going to be the difference as to whether or not we're going to be able to assert dominance in the league.
Caddy and Cody, you're on the clock. We'll see if you can coach these kids up. We got a quarterback coach in OC now. So
that's why I expect Chad Morris to make the biggest difference is next recruiting cycle for these wide receivers, man. If you can say, all right, you see what we did with these passing concepts with Bo Nix, it looks way different, doesn't it? Why don't you come this way? So the next time we got a Justin Ross in Phoenix City, he doesn't go to Clemson, he comes here because we're running plays that get him open, that isn't one-dimensional go routes after you block 10 plays in a row. It's like, I want to see if Chad's going to give us something. I want to see if he gets Cody Burns fired. That's what I want to see. Like, listen, this guy's not cutting us. We got to get rid of this guy. I want to see what's going to happen with that. Because, I mean, I never thought of Cody Burns as an elite wide receiving talent. I don't know. He didn't play the position long enough. I don't know what he did post-playing career that would have made him proficient enough in the knowledge of playing the position to where he could teach it at an elite level. I don't know that he can do that. I think they really wanted to get him on staff because he was an Auburn guy. Maybe he's gotten better at that. I don't know how much of it is.
I think the thing with Cody was that he had the right kind of personality to be able to deal with the college kids, number one. Mm-hmm. And number two, he understands concepts really well, right? So that's the reason why he could convert from a quarterback to a wide receiver, because he understood what the route concept was. The concept was to do this thing, this and this and that. I can pick this up really well. I can actually show somebody else here on the board, this is what you're supposed to do. The problem that I have that I don't know that he's able to do is the technique, is the being able to be proficient in the little things that make you a great, not just understanding what the play is supposed to be, but how do I win on this play? Mm-hmm. What puts me in the position to understand where my leverage is as a receiver in this coverage, and understanding, okay, this is what my hot read is against this blitz, and like those types of things. I don't know if Cody Burns is able to.
And I think that comes with experience. I think that comes with an experience. And I don't know why, but to B's point, I just don't think during Malzahn's tenure we've ever really respected the wide receiver position like we should have. No. Because as much as I like Damian Craig, especially as an elite recruiter, Damian Craig was a quarterback.
Right.
And I feel like in terms of getting a wide receivers coach, a guy who knows how to teach these guys routes and what to do in certain situations, I don't think we have a guy on our staff who can do that. And to your point, B, I don't think he gets Cody fired. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, to your point, B, I would love to see someone who coaches wide receivers. They've been doing this for a while.
Yes, Mike, I do actually remember that.
He was getting chewed out live action. I was like, what did he do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He basically had that look on his face like a little kid that got caught doing something. He was like, "Me? It wasn't even me. That was, so yeah, I don't know."
That's funny.
He also said that Carnell was underwhelming this year as the running back coach.
Recruiter? No.
I think it's still a little
Yes.
early to call him underwhelming. Like, I don't know what we expect to see as a huge difference as a running back coach, other than figuring out how to tell Boopy to put two hands on the ball routinely. Because good Lord,
and he wasn't the only one. There was a couple other guys who fumbled the
no,
ball.
literally I think DJ Williams might be the only running back that we have that did not have a recorded lost fumble this year.
Right.
Every other one that touched the field or fumbled the ball at least one time.
Right.
So,
And I think that was what Mike was getting at, is we didn't see that get cleaned up as the season went on.
Right.
We were willing to live with that early on in the season, but we shouldn't have been seeing fumbles in October, November like we were seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially on like dumb play. Like, it wasn't like somebody made a really great defensive play and he got stripped. It was like you running past somebody and they ripped the ball out because you didn't secure it. Like, just come on, man. Like,
Right.
be there mentally. And so again,
Right.
is that coaching, or is that a guy who has a lazy mentality, who doesn't from play to play lock in? All right, he's just not locked in full time the entire play or the entire.
Well, I'll tell you this. We got enough running backs now. You better be locked in now.
Oh, his leash is so short this year.
Yeah.
You better be locked in. So,
Yeah.
That's over.
I mean, he's a scrimmage, a couple of spring scrimmages of fumbling.
I think B's headset went out.
Yeah, his headset might have gone out. So your mic went out as well, B. So, but yeah, he is definitely a couple of scrimmages away from screwing up and not seeing the field anymore, because I don't think that it's a very short trip from the field to the doghouse this year in the running backs room. Like, there's just too many guys who are talented in there.
It's too crowded.
So he might be the next guy entering the transfer portal.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm like, who do we lose? We can't keep everybody. Who do you think we lose?
I don't know. It just kind of depends on who some of these guys turn out to be. If they get out here and they're competing really well and not seeing the field, and it's because it's too crowded, then that's going to be. I think the guy, unfortunately, I'm going to say this and say this begrudgingly, DJ Williams might be the odd man out just because of his size. Because if Tank Bigsby is the guy who everyone thinks that he is, like a big physical back that's got breakaway speed, like he's a guy that people say can hit home runs, and he's a big running back, right? Like, if you're a home run hitting back at that size, between DJ Williams and actually the two guys that produced most for us this year in the running back room, in my opinion, might be
maybe the odd man out.
Yeah, just because I don't know, the kids that are behind them are some beasts. So
I just hope Malzahn doesn't play that seniority card, man. That frustrates me a lot with him too.
It didn't work with Cam Martin.
Good point.
Cam Martin was the senior on the team and barely ever saw the field.
But I'm just saying, guys who have been seeing the field, can Gus be willing to see who's the best player and put him out there? Yeah,
Sean Shivers is another guy who probably is not going to see the field as much.
He's probably my vote. My vote to transfer.
I just think that Sean Shivers, like, he loves football, but he likes track too. So, like, as long as he can get some spot duty in there, and still be able to go out and run track when he wants to, he might be okay.
Yeah, Sean Shivers is basically the 2019 version of Ontario McCaleb. You just got that speed, scat back guy who runs along the end. He's more physical than Ontario McCaleb, but he basically does a lot of the things that Malzahn has always wanted to do with a smaller back. So I don't know if that's good enough for Shivers. Yeah,
we'll see. His audio stuff was cutting out, but that's cool. We should be wrapping this up anyway. Any last thoughts from you on this whole recruiting situation?
I'm going to keep my eye out on the remaining targets who have yet to sign and see. Hopefully, there's no drama with them. Maybe Auburn picks up someone late. I'm looking to see them add another O-line guy. Actually,
because we lost a couple of guys.
Yeah,
that were O-line recruits that we were supposed to be putting in here.
One to Bama, right? Wasn't he? One guy was. I think we pulled our offer to him because I think he wanted to put on a production on signing day. And the coaches wasn't having it. And
they definitely saw that from the other end with the kid from Miami who pretty much did the same thing to Miami, where it was like, yeah, Miami, and then on nationals on early signing day, Auburn. Just kidding.
Right.
So I think they were feeling some of those same vibes from the kid that was doing that with Bama, taking the late visit to Bama right before, and just like, you know what, if you still haven't decided and you're still taking visits, we're just going to snatch the offer. Don't worry about it. Don't call me. We'll call you.
Right.
So yeah, we'll see how things go with those last few O-line recruits. We had one of those JUCO recruits actually got snatched up by Kentucky that we were supposed to be having come in. So I don't know. I think, yeah, like you said, building depth in the offensive line. We've got enough skill players, in my opinion. We just need to focus on some of those other depth issues that we might have out there in the offensive line and maybe in the DBs. Yeah, we only got one QB, but I don't know that we need more than one other QB. I mean, we still got, the KG veteran out there in Bo Nix now coming in his second year. And then we got the old man, the baseball player, coming in as the backup there. So now we've got that other dual threat guy.
You got people. Yeah, you got some people coming in 2021.
Yeah, we've got a couple of 2021 targets that are looking pretty good, and there's still a possibility that Chad Morris's son signs with us. He has not signed anywhere yet during the early period, so we'll see where that goes.
Slim, but we'll see.
Yeah, I actually don't think he should come, but like if he's if Bo Nix is as good as they want him to be, he's not going to see the field his first 2 years. So he's going to have to redshirt his first year. And then we've got some pretty big recruits coming in the 2021 class. So he's going to be competing for a job his second year, which will be his redshirt freshman year, to be a backup for Bo Nix, right? And so I just don't know that there's a lot of space for him to be able to get any burn. So I wouldn't come if I were him. So
I'm hearing Oklahoma and
Oklahoma's the front runner right now.
Yeah.
So,
to me, I think that's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting
what they're doing from offensive talent, especially quarterback.
Sidebar, I'm interested to see what Oklahoma does once Hurts leaves.
To answer your question, Mike, yes, he
is. I'm interested to see what Oklahoma does because Oklahoma is suffering from Malzahn syndrome too. We've seen them have a lot of success with transfer QBs. I want to see them develop a kid out of high school.
Yeah,
this will be the first kid up under this new era, under this new head coach they have. So I want to see what they do in terms of developing a talent. We've seen what they can do with guys who come and develop elsewhere.
Yeah,
what can they do with a kid out of high school?
Very interesting to see that as well. So
yeah.
All right, let me tell them where they can find us. Of course, Instagram and Twitter. We are at The War Rapport. You guys can follow us there on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're watching this video right now and you haven't hit that thumbs up, just go ahead and click on it before you exit out of the video. If you're not subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe. You might as well turn on the notifications as well so you know when we're going live. So we're going to continue to bring you guys some great Auburn content as the off season rolls around and bowl season. First bowl games start tonight. So if you're going to be buckling up for some college football, this weekend is going to be chock full of it. So definitely check out some of that game.
UAB and App State plays tomorrow. I'm looking to check that game out.
So you guys lock in with some great college football, and we will be seeing you guys soon. Mike says, wait, don't end it for whatever reason. I don't know what the deal is with Mike. I don't know what he wants to talk about. Can't run the show from the comment section, Mike. It's too much of a delay. So like by the time you actually hear me asking you what the issue is, and then I respond to whatever it is you're telling me, it's gonna be like 45 seconds will have gone by. So
you do realize we're an hour and 15 in, Mike, right?
Yeah. What's Caesar Mama making for Christmas? All right, that's enough of that. We are out of here. He asked about Christmas dinner for Caesar's mom. All right, man. Y'all have a wonderful night, and as always, War Eagle.
She making you cereal. And War Eagle, everybody.